You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm a little quieter today because I am at the airport. I am at a gate that's not really being used right now, so I'm going to go ahead, take advantage of the time that I have before my flight boards, and I'm going to go ahead and do this really quick Q&A about the 49ers Vikings practices. And so if you guys have any questions about these practices, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I plan to do a more in-depth breakdown and recap of what I saw in today's practices tomorrow. Just because I'm a little unsure on how much time I have right now, I wanted to just make this a quick Q&A kind of session because I didn't want to start a recap and then have to start boarding in like 5 minutes. So hope you guys can appreciate that. I'll do my recap tomorrow on my channel, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you like this video. I was very pleased that my last video I think we got over 15 likes on the last video, so let's go ahead, try to get more on this one. Let's try to go for 20 likes. Let's go. I have trust in us. Let's go. So make sure you subscribe. I'm going to go live tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is my birthday, but I'm going to take some of my birthday time and go live for you guys to talk about these 49ers Vikings practices, all right? So if you guys have any questions, go ahead, drop them in the comments, and we are going to talk all about it. What's going on, Jamie? Glad you are here. Amin says, Steph and airport reports, it's an elite combo at this point. You know what? Like, I try to make it happen. And like I said, it's kind of empty over here. So I'm going to make the most of the time that I have, right? So I checked out early from my hotel, so I didn't have anywhere to stream after practice today. And shout out to Brad, man. Brad has been absolutely killing it, the SF Niners, man. He set up camp outside the Vikings facility and did a live from there. I don't know how he got Wi-Fi. Like, he was in the middle of some bushes and plants and all that. I don't know how he got Wi-Fi. That man is the GOAT. So shout out to him. And he's been, absolutely covering this 49ers Vikings practice as good as he does anything else. So, you know what? I'm going to clean the screen real quick because I feel like it's kind of dirty. There you go. It's a little bit clearer now. Amin also asks, what did you think of Womack after all? Honestly, I think Samuel Womack. Okay, so I'm going to preface it with this. I feel like the 49ers DBs as a whole, when it came to 11 on 11, 7 on 7s, they seemed a little outmatched out there. And part of the reason is because Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson have such a good chemistry that they can kind of overcome any type of coverage. I don't know if you guys can hear me over this announcement right now. Can you guys hear me over the announcement? Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, I feel like Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins have such a good chemistry that, like, honestly, no matter who is covering them, I think they're going to be able to connect a lot of the times because they're just on the same page. Like, it's clear. It was so evident in these practices. If I learned nothing out of this, it was just the fact that these two have a great chemistry. So, fantasy football purposes, if you guys play fantasy football, I would be targeting that stack right there. It's looking good so far. So anyway, Samuel Womack. I think Samuel Womack was one of the bright spots of the DB group today. I thought he did really well. I posted one video. Let's see if I can find it here on my profile, and I'll show you guys really quick. 'Cause he had one play that I really liked. He had a couple plays today, but one that I had. Let me see. Okay, I found it. So let me share it with you guys really quick. Share my screen. A second. Appreciate you guys' patience. Let's see. All right, so right here, you guys see this play. Samuel Womack. Let me rewind it really quick. So Samuel Womack, I believe he's right here. So right here. So yeah, he was right there with the black sleeves, working through his block right there. This is a screen. He just comes up, block, 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 but he's working through it. He continues to fight through it, and look at that. He gets the tackle right there, and they don't get much gain on that play because of the stop that Samuel Womack is able to make. And you can argue maybe it wasn't the best block in the world, but I feel like I got to give some credit to Womack on that one, and I feel like he had a great day overall. Like I can totally see why this team like Samuel Womack. It doesn't seem like the game is too big for him, and he's making some plays out there. So I definitely like what I'm seeing out of him. He also had another pass breakup on the day. I'm trying to see if I had a tweet about that as well. But yeah, Samuel Womack, I mean, just seems to be a guy that, personally, from what I've seen, I'd be comfortable starting him um, as the starting nickel slot corner out there, which technically, doesn't start because you don't start in dime packages all the time. But you know, when they go into dime packages, I feel comfortable with him being the guy, and it doesn't seem like the game is too big for him. So he made some plays today, and I'm really pleased with what he showed in these last couple practices. So I think you guys should feel good about him as well. Very excited to see how he does on Saturday's game after the really good game that he showed last Friday against the Packers. Hopefully he can continue that, and I think he will. Appreciate it, Amin. What's going on, Dawson? Thank you, Keith. Jamie asks, did Danny Gray look as good as it seems in videos? Yesterday in practice, I thought Danny Gray had a really good game. I mean, everyone points to the long touchdown pass that he had where Trey Lance threw it to him downfield. It probably was like 45, 50 yards in the air. And Danny Gray, oh my God, Danny Gray burned Patrick Peterson on that long touchdown. Like everyone's talking about that one, and that was a great play. Today he was a little quieter. I didn't see too much from him. He had some good reps in one-on-one, but a little quieter today. But I also will say the offense as a whole was a little quiet today. And part of that was because of the offensive line. And I'm not going to get too deep into it here because, again, my flight is going to be boarding pretty soon, I think. So I don't want to go too in depth on the offensive line. I plan to have another live tomorrow morning, probably, to really go in depth on what I saw today in day 2 of practice. But I'll basically say that I didn't think the offensive line was really good today. And for that reason, it was really hard, I think, for the offense, and not just Trey Lance. I think all of the quarterbacks kind of struggled to get a rhythm going. I did see that Lance was, I think, 11 of 18 or something like that today. And I just want to say that, I mean, that doesn't seem so bad, right? But I wanted to point out that, as I've been saying this whole time, context does matter. So while it didn't seem bad on paper, it did seem worse than that in person. And just because the offensive line just couldn't get any type of rhythm going. So, yeah, I mean, take the good with the bad. It's good that he had a lot of completions today, Trey Lance did. But at the same time, take into account the fact that the offensive line was not on their best game today. And we saw Trent Williams allow a couple of not just pressures, but some sacks as well. And Spencer Burford, these last couple of days, have been somewhat up and down. It's been mostly a struggle for him. I think the entire offensive line, I mean, McKivitz as well has had his fair share in these last 2 days of, bad reps. So I think as a whole, I hate to say this, but as a whole, if there's anything on this team that I'm slightly concerned with at the moment, it is the offensive line. The secondary, though they have struggled at times, does not concern me as much, just because I know that Charvarius Ward and and Emmanuel Mosley are not practicing right now. They're hurt. Emmanuel Mosley does practice, but he is not participating in team drills, so I should clarify that. So starting to practice, but not in the team drills where we are seeing most of these plays take place. So I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing the DBs kind of struggle, especially when it comes to Justin Jefferson, which, as I mentioned, has great chemistry with Kirk Cousins. So I'll just say that I'm not as worried about the DB groups. I think once they are full squad and the defense is full squad, they'll be fine. Week 1, I'm not worried about it at all, especially this defensive line. A lot of the times in these practices, they were not. Sorry if you can't hear me. Announcement going on. I'm in the airport. Okay, I had to make sure my flight's not boarding yet. It's not boarding yet. I don't think. I think it's gonna get delayed. But yeah. So the offensive line, I think, is the only thing I'm like semi worried about right now. And yes, there are some injuries there. I mean, Mike McGlinchey is not participating in these practices, so that's part of the reason. But still, I would like to see more. So to answer your question about Danny Gray, yes, he looked really good yesterday, and it seems like Trey Lance and Danny Gray have a really good chemistry, which is a really good sign this early into his, very new career in the NFL, right? I think we can be excited about that. Didn't see much of Danny Gray today, though, I'll be honest with you. So take that for what it's worth. So he had that splash play yesterday, a little quieter today, and that's okay. I think, there's an opportunity for us to see a big play between Danny Gray and Trey Lance, or maybe Danny Gray and Nate Sudfeld tomorrow or Saturday when they play in the second preseason game. So be on the lookout for that. I still feel good about the chemistry that Danny Gray has with his quarterbacks. All right, what's going on, guys? I appreciate you guys coming on right now. As I mentioned, I am in the airport and I can start boarding at any time, so that's why I wanted to do this Q&A format because, once they start saying I'm boarding, I'm out of here. I'll do my more in-depth video tomorrow morning, but I appreciate you guys being on. Keith says Minnesota in real game situation against us is overmatched. Yes and no. I mean, I think again, like our defensive line looked really good today, and I would say the Vikings offensive line looked outmatched going against the 49ers defensive line. The defensive line was all over the place, especially like our linebackers as well did really good today. So the only thing that I'm worried about, like I mentioned, is the 49ers offensive line, and the Vikings defensive line did improve this offseason with the addition of Zadarius Smith and some other additions. But, I feel like at the moment I'm a little concerned about the offensive line. And hopefully, when Mike McGlinchey comes back, it could improve. Or also, like, the more reps that they get as a group together, hopefully they can improve. But, I'm hoping that, again, yeah, you mentioned real game situation. It might be the 49ers may look better on Saturday when it comes to a real game, when Kyle can scheme up some things. And it seems like that's usually how things go with this team. Like when Kyle is calling plays and could put people in position to win, that's when this offense and this offensive line could make some things work. But yeah, for the most part, didn't look all too good for the offensive line today. All right. What's going on, Ty? I appreciate you being on. Ty asks, how did Ayuk look? I saw he cooked one CB today. Yeah, I mean, in one-on-ones, I will say that the 49ers looked a lot better in one-on-ones today. And sorry if you guys can hear that announcement. It's pretty loud. But I feel like Ayuk had a pretty good day today. It wasn't like a terrible day, but as I mentioned, when it comes to like all of the 49ers receivers, it was a little hard to get a really good look at them because a lot of the times, like, the plays were getting blown dead because like Trey Lance would get sacked or something like that. So like most of my attention was going to the 49ers defense. One, because it was right in front of me, it was in the near field, and the 49ers offense was in the further field. So that's part of the reason, but also because it didn't seem like the offensive line was holding up all that well for the 49ers. So the wide receivers didn't make that much noise today, but Ayuk is looking good. And I mean, it's not much different from what we saw in training camp where he was beating guys. And I think, we shouldn't be worried about Brandon Ayuk at all. He's going to have a good season, I think. Adam asks, Odom still winning over Moore as Ward's backup? I'm not sure. I mean, I think Tarvarius Moore has been in some difficult spots these last two practices. One, just the fact that, he's been in there because Jimmy Ward has not been in there, and he's going against first team, which first team has been tough with the Vikings because Justin Jefferson is there. And I noticed that they were playing more zone in this practice. And so I think some of that gives slightly more responsibility to the safeties. I mean, I think Odom did pretty well today overall, but Tarvarius Moore, it's been a little bit tougher on him. But overall, I still get the sense that Tarvarius Moore is ahead of Odom in the pecking order, but we'll see how they do in this second preseason game as well. Ty says, "Don't reveal any secrets at the airport. Spies are out." Shit, I feel like I'm like the op right now. Like I'm the narc, like talking about the 49ers in the airport. I'm trying to be quiet, not too loud. Yeah, my flight's not boarded yet. I should check if it's like delayed or something, because now it says 8:49, so maybe it got delayed again. All right, well, more time with you guys, so that's okay. Keith says, oh, he's talking about Ty. Dawson said, who looks to be the RB2? Well, I will say that the RB2 is probably Jeff Wilson Jr. And a lot of people are forgetting about Jeff Wilson Jr. I think because he missed some practices in training camp, and so a lot of eyes were on Trey Sermon. And I think Trey Sermon's going to get some run too. I did also see that it looked like Trey Sermon tweaked his ankle. He looked to be limping after practice. So that is something to keep an eye on. Maybe we'll hear more about that in the coming days. But I definitely think Jeff Wilson Jr. is the RB2 on this team after Elijah Mitchell, who is the unquestioned RB1 at the moment. But I think both Jeff Wilson Jr. and Trey Sermon are going to get some good run on this team. And there's even an opportunity for TDP, honestly, depending on how he does, in the second preseason game and when the season starts, we'll see more of him as well. Keith says RB1 by week 3. Yeah, maybe. 1 second. I think I gotta. Shit. 1 second. I think I gotta go to the gate because it's saying my. Gotta go to my gate really quickly. Let me just go to these. I wish I had a private jet, man. Yeah, I think I gotta go to my gate now. Sermon injured. Yeah, as I mentioned, it looked like he was limping. But I am not entirely sure what the injury is specifically. And then what's going on, Melissa? Thank you for the well wishes. Did Jordan Mason practice at all? Yes, he did practice. You say you haven't heard anything about him. He hasn't been doing bad. He's still pretty good and solid. I think we're going to see some good runs from him. But as I mentioned, 49ers offensive line could use some work. So I think that's part of the reason that these running backs haven't really been able to stand out in these last couple of games. But all right, guys, I appreciate all the questions, and I am going to end this live now. Appreciate you guys. As I mentioned, I'll go on the more in-depth breakdown tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that. All right, have a good rest of your night. Peace.